portion. So in Judaism, we read roughly a 50-second of the Torah every week. So we divide it up into weekly parshas. So about a month ago or so, 3 weeks ago, we started over. So we're now about 4 or 5 what they call parshiot, or portions in. And this one has this, the one parsha we read this week is called Vayera. And it has a number of exceptionally well-known stories. It has Abraham washing the feet of the messengers. It has Sodom and Gomorrah. It has Lot's wife turning into a pillar of stone. It has Sarah laughing, being told she's going to be a mother. It has Sarah sending out Hagar and Ishmael. It has Isaac's birth. And it has the binding of Isaac, what we in Judaism call the Akedah. It is a Torah portion chock full of possible lessons. One of the things I was thinking about as I was reading it and getting ready, there's a few chairs up here if you want one.
Thank you.
Is the idea to which Judaism, a 5,000-year-old religion, has been able to survive because there are some core values, there are some core beliefs or lessons that the Torah is trying to teach us that remain true to this day. It's almost like, I don't know how many of you do this, maybe just me. If you go back on YouTube and watch football games from 30 years ago, it doesn't look exactly the same, but you can recognize a lot of the parts. The constituent parts are still the same. Judging by the faces, maybe that's just me because I'm old, but that's okay. Next semester, so I was talking with a rabbi in the community this week. I had an idea that I wanted to bring together rabbis of the Reform, Conservative, and Orthodox movements to talk about sort of how they're different on different issues. And as he and I were speaking, the thought really sort of clarified to me that I don't actually want to do that. What I want to do is bring rabbis together and talk about the ways in which these lessons of Judaism are going to push the religion forward into 10, 20, 30 years from now. What Jewish communal life, and in fact, the communal life of organized religion in general, might look like in 2034, 2044, 2054. And I bring this up because, as I said, this parsha has a tremendous amount of lessons. I want to focus specifically on 2. I want to focus on the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, but not the destruction of the city specifically. I'll explain in a second. And I want to focus on the way that Sarah interacts with God. Now, you'll hear me throughout this use the word Hashem. We in Judaism don't know or don't say the actual name of God. So you've heard in prayers we say Adonai. I'll say Hashem, which literally just means the name in Hebrew. I try not to use he or she, but sometimes when I'm writing it to say Hashem does this and Hashem's will, it sounds really weird. So you'll hear me occasionally use he just to make the prose flow a little bit more nicely. But I'm sure most of us are at least cursorily familiar with the story of Sodom and Gomorrah. The cities are bad. They're wicked. People do horrible things. There's some not great examples even in this particular parsha. God has decided to destroy the cities. And he thinks, I've chosen Abraham as my messenger. I've chosen Abraham because he is good and he is righteous. And he also thinks, and this is important, that if there is any good in the cities that God has missed, we'll take note of that. So Hashem talks to Abraham and says, hey, I'm going to destroy these cities. Then Abraham, as you probably are aware, says, well, what if I find 50 good people? And God says, sure, I'll keep the cities alive. Okay, well, I can't find 50, but how about 45? Is 45 okay? Okay, well, what about 40 or 30 or 10? And as it turns out, there aren't even 10 good people in Sodom and Gomorrah, and the cities are destroyed. But the really crucial fact is not so much that God destroyed entire cities or that the way in which the people of these cities were behaving was wrong, but rather that Abraham interceded with God, spoke, as we say, truth to power. There are many situations that we, not only Jews, but all of us in this community, in this state, and certainly in this country, deal with that are unjust. And we see Abraham speaking up, trying to save as many people as possible. As it turns out, they might not have been worth saving. That's okay. I think speaking up is incredibly, incredibly important. And this would be one thing. It wouldn't really learn a lesson if Hashem said, no, I have decided Sodom and Gomorrah are going to be wiped off the map, just like I did with the flood. But Hashem listened. He would have saved the cities had there been anything worth saving. It's good, I think, sort of reassuring to know that no innocent people, at least in the context of the Torah, were killed. But the second Jewish value, and I think this is one that we sort of see in our everyday life, has to do with honesty. I know that 65 of us in this room know someone who has a significant, prominent character trait of saying blunt and hurtful things, but then just saying, no, I'm just being honest. Anyone know that kind of person? That person's kind of an asshole, right? Like, we can agree? In Genesis 18:12, Sarah laughs about the prospect of becoming pregnant at 90, but not because she's 90. She laughs because her husband is almost 100. And in the very next verse, Hashem speaking to Abraham, giving the good news that he's going to be, I guess, a father again, does not say Sarah laughed because you're old. Hashem says Sarah laughed because I am old. In the Talmud is a collection of sort of rabbinic writings from which we get much of our law. There's a dispute between two rabbis, Rabbi Hillel and Rabbi Shammai. Hillel says in Tractate Ketubot that you should always praise a bride's appearance at her wedding, regardless of how she looks. Probably true. Shammai says, no, honesty. Honesty is the value that we should sort of hold higher than anything else. Now, Jewish law, and I think indeed common sense, agrees with Rabbi Hillel. When someone's dignity is at stake, and there's no bad possible damage that can come from a white lie like this, we are commanded to spare someone's feelings, just as Hashem does for Abraham. Whenever someone that I've worked with or someone that I know is coming up to read from the Torah or is giving a speech and is nervous, I generally say, you're going to get off the bima, this area up here, and everyone's going to tell you did great. Whether you did great or not, that's fine. But everyone's going to tell you, is this not true? Those of you who had bar mitzvahs, is this true? Those of you who have had, I don't know, confirmation or whatever a Catholic equivalent is, they're going to tell you did great, right? They're going to tell you did great. Judaism is, like most religions, in a constant state of flux. Society and external pressures are always going to lead to religious changes, and sometimes we can see this in the way our prayers are different. For example, we, as of, 20 years ago, include women in our prayers, which is, great. Sometimes our rituals are a little bit different. For example, we no longer slaughter animals. I mean, we do for food, but not for religious observance. But these values that the Torah teaches us remain the same. And that gives me hope that long after I am gone, Judaism will still be here and Judaism will still thrive. Shabbat Shalom.